everybody, welcome to Lisa's Art Room. Today we're going to be starting a new junk journal. This one is going to be called Wild and Muted. It is a nature themed junk journal and I'm going to be using this paper. Sorry, it's backwards. It is Secret Diary by Stamperia, and it has it's very nature and it has a lot of muted pastel tones. And so it'll be a nature journal with pastel tones, basically. So I'm going to be using that, and then I've got this fabric that I have. This is going to be the cover, and then this will be a pocket. So that's what we've got, and then I have this ribbon for the tie. So I've got all my parts ready, and thank you for letting me know the sound is good, Dawn. I appreciate that. I'm going to get you guys pulled up on my other device here so I can see chat. All right, so got it. People on, sound is good. Let's go ahead and pull the camera up top and we'll get started. Okay, that's good. All right, let's see, making sure lighting's okay. It always looks weird on my iPad up there because I guess it's got to be the angle, because there's like a shadow on the bottom left, like the bottom 2 inches is all shadowy. Let's see. All right, so these are my materials. I also have the 12 by 12 of this. And I get both because sometimes the page sizes just don't work out for what I need. And I also like that the smaller one has some smaller tags in it. I already cut those up because I took it to Michael's with me to try to match for some flowers for the cover. And I think I found some I like. So I got these little flowers, and I think that they will work good on this. So that's the plan, is to somehow incorporate this onto the cover. Don't know exactly yet how, but I'll figure it out. But I had already cut those out. But so the fabric, the papers, you know, the smaller one has smaller stuff and the bigger one has bigger stuff. That's it in a nutshell. But sometimes the big one, let's see if I can get it out of this without grabbing 15 other things that aren't it. I also found one sheet of paper, I think from Stamperia, yeah. So when I was doing my shopping, I found, let's see, I found this single sheet, if I can find it. Oh, there it is. This one. And this one, I liked the tones matched real well with this set. But this is actually, let's see if it has a little bar. No. This is actually from Hidden Grove Collection, and it's called Treehouse. So it was probably a set that they have. I just don't know where it is. That's the only one I found. But I liked it, so I went ahead and grabbed that too. I'll incorporate this somehow. But let's see how the size difference is on this in case you decide that you want to make one. Find the tags in here. And you're looking at them. That's the difference. Okay, so you get bigger tags on this one, and then the little set will give you littler tags, and then all of the accessories and fussy cutting sheets and all that is of course a little bit bigger. Sometimes I don't want a full sheet, but I do like having some full sheets to use as my pages. So that's why I get both, because, you know, something like this and this is fine for like a background page. Yeah. You know, I'll probably cut these out for labels. You could use it for a background, but I'll probably cut them out. And then that it came apart. The stuff that holds it together on the side did not hold. So, but you know, even this is the front cover. You know, if I wanted to cover that, I could use this as a page and then put something else on this side. Or I could just cut it out and use it, you know, for tags and then cover it or something. But there are some really pretty papers in here that I think will work as pages. I think this size is probably about right. Let's take a look at my base here. So yeah, that's a decent size. I don't think it's more than 6 inches. Ruler sitting here somewhere. I usually have about 5.5. Yeah, that's right at 5.5 from there to there. So this could work as, you know, a page if I wanted to use it that way. Sometimes they're too big, but I think that'll be fine. So got some good options in here. It's a pretty paper. But I love Stamperia stuff. You honestly can't go wrong with it. They have a lot of awesome papers. Everything put back together. All right, so let me get this out of the way because I don't need it right this second. So I did have to pick a paper for the pocket, and I think I've decided on this bee paper. So remember how when I did the nature journal, I bought this bee paper, but it's got these bees on it that are just monsters. They're so big. And then when I do the pocket, I needed something to line it. And I think these colors, I don't really care. Oh, that's supposed to be there. I don't really care, you know, that the bees won't show or anything, because it's just a pocket. You'll only see it, you know, a little bit. I just mostly wanted something with the right colors. So I'll either go with this one or this other one. But I think the colors will work. So, you know, and it's obviously still nature themed. So I think I'm going to use one of those. I'll figure out which one fits best. And a few. Hey, Deborah. So I've already cut out the pieces of fabric and the, I'm trying to figure out where this is. The Amazon packaging. So just, it saves so much time if I do that ahead. All right, so I started with a M8 Amazon package that I've got something in. Looks like this originally. Yeah, I like this size because it works really well. You have to chop off a little bit, but it's not a lot of waste. And then I took it apart. So you take it apart, and then I like to flip it inside out so that I have a clean outside. This will be covered with paper, so you won't really see that. And then the fabric, if the fabric's thin, this is a little thin. If your fabric's thin, you won't see any writing through it or anything, so you don't have to gesso it or anything like that to block it. So you can just flip it like that. And then I do that, some of you know, but I do that by using my palette knife, which I have moved off to the side because I didn't think I'd need it. I use my palette knife because it's a nice flat, it's not sharp, but I do sand it sometimes. So it's almost sharp. And then what I do is I just feed it up in there and just do like this. And that separates it, so I don't lose any of the bag. And then I cut them out to the size. So that's how I start it. And for this one, my standard 3 signature junk journal is 9 by 14 for the packaging. So the height here is 9, and then the length is 14. Can't really show you with this one, but trust me, it's 14. And then what that does is that gives me 6 inches, 2 inches for a spine, and then 6 inches. And we need to mark all that. So the packaging is 9 by 14, 2 pieces. And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a paper bag from your grocery shopping. It doesn't have to be Amazon packaging. Maybe you don't order stuff online. And then your fabric needs to be basically a 1/2 inch larger all the way around. Let's see, where's my other ruler? So this should be about 14.5. That's 14.5 and 9.5. Okay, so 1/2 inch larger. And that way, when you put your fabric on your journal, you have a little bit of overlap all the way around. And I like to fray the edge. You don't have to. All the way around. And it's very common for the fabric not to be square, especially on these thinner fabrics. I think what tends to happen is they just get stretched out, and so they don't really want to lay square. I'm sure there's probably some way around that, but I haven't figured it out, so I usually end up just fighting with it a little bit, trying to get it square. But so that's what I want, just a little bit of a border on the outside of my packaging. Okay, you need 2 pieces. They can be different colors. They don't have to be the same color. This one I happen to choose the same color. And then you need a piece that is 14 inches long by whatever height you want the pocket. I think I typically do 4 inches. Let's see. This one's almost 4.5. I guess 4.5 if you count all the fraying. So I did 4.5, but you know, a decent sized pocket. Doesn't have to be any particular height or anything. You could put it tiny if you wanted, or you could go on almost to the top if you wanted. That's kind of up to you. And then you need something for a tie. So something that you can tie fairly well into a bow or whatever, and you know, enough of it to go all the way through, and then have enough to hang out to tie. And I always forget what I do, but I think I do about 34 inches. On average. Let me see what that does. Yeah, I think I do about 34 inches of that. So that's my tie. I don't know where I got this offline on Amazon. I might have put the link in my favorites list. I don't remember. But I've been having a hard time finding ribbons that I like at Hobby Lobby, and Joann's is gone, so I'm limited now. So you usually just get it off Amazon. All right, so get your pieces of fabric, just cut them out, fray them, you know, whatever you like to do with them. Set them aside for now, and we're going to mark our packaging. And like I said, I like to turn it inside out so that the print's on the inside. And we're just going to find the center. Usually I do this ahead of time, but I've just been busy and didn't do it, so y'all get to watch me do it this time. Probably a good thing for me to do it every now and then, in case I have some new people that haven't seen it a million times. So like I said, it should be 6 inches and then a 2-inch spine, so you can mark 7 for your center, and then 8, and then this should be 6. Okay, close enough. Tiny bit off, but it's got a lot of wrinkling in there. I'm probably not laying it flat. Yeah, I'm off just a fraction. I'll move it over just a little bit. That's better. Okay. So just do that. So you have your center. I do this because I just think it makes everything easier as I go if I have all these marked. And I use chalk pencil, so it doesn't really show much. It's just a General's pastel chalk. You can get them all over the place. This is still just a little off. I bet it's not quite 14. Doesn't really matter, but as you probably won't even see that. Let's see. Mark this one on the outside. I actually mark it on both, but and I could just use my other one to do it, but I'm just going to measure. 7, 8. So 6, 7, 8. Let's see where this one's heading. About the same. All right. So you want to have an up and a down so that you keep everything the same. That way, if it is a little bit off on one side or the other, it will be the same way. Yeah, that looks about the same. All right, so I always just mark my up with an arrow. And then on the inside, and I know that's turned around. Just do it everywhere. All right, let's make sure that it's about the same. It should be. I'm just going to peek through. Oh, it looks about the same. I'm just going to use this. Save time. And just put it up here. I should have marked it right on the edge. Why did I do that? I don't know. I don't know why I didn't do it on the edge. Make my life difficult. That's why I didn't do it on the edge. My ruler's backwards. I'll just turn it upside down. Just make sure that's where those are. Yep. Usually do it on the edge because then I can see it to line it up to the next one if I need to. And make sure that's still lined up. And I put the marks just everywhere. It's just easier to have all of your lines. That way when you're putting your fabrics on, you know you're the right direction, you know, you're at the center for your ribbon and things like that. It's the same thing there. It's probably close enough I can figure it out. All right. And then you can draw a line, not draw a line. I'm going to draw a line. I think it helps with the ribbon lining. Where is the edge on this? Can't tell if it had a little extra or not. It does not. This helps me know where to put my glue because I like to glue everything on my center spine down because it really helps when I'm sewing it in later for the needle to get through all of the layers without, you know, them being just off a little bit and having to fight with it. Because sometimes that happens when you have a lot of layers to go through. Your needle just doesn't line up through all of them and you have to fight it. So by gluing the spine down, it helps eliminate that issue. So if you watch me a lot, you'll notice normally I have this part done and I just explain it. But honestly, I was running around a lot the last few days and I just didn't get it done. All right, let's see. Chalk pencil's showing good. And then the next step will be to mark all of the things like the cover, inside, outside, stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to line everything up again, make sure that we've got our arrows going the right way, our clean side on the outside, and then, so this is how it will be, like this, and you will have a pocket here. All right, so just start here, and this is front cover. All right, and then this is the left inside cover. And I can see this better than you probably can. Right inside cover. Okay, and then this is the pocket. And this is the pocket back. And this is pocket, I'm going to say top, because it is kind of on the top, so I just say top. We'll just put top. And then we want a center mark for a ribbon there. Do that in a second. And then this is the back cover. Okay, so we have all of our things marked there. This side gets glued together or just left. It doesn't have to be glued, but I usually end up gluing it. I just usually say can glue just in case I forget what it is. So I just put can glue on that side. All right, so now we need to find our center for our ribbon. And it should be 4.5. So we've got 9. So we'll just do 4.5 there. This one's going to be hard to see. It's very hard to see. Kind of sort of there. Just could have moved it over a little bit. And you really only have to have the bottom one marked for the ribbon. This is slightly shorter than 9, so I'm just kind of adjusting it a little bit. All right, so that's our ribbon line. You can mark it, not mark it, it's up to you. As long as I know about where to put the ribbon. Alright, so inside cover, front cover, pocket top, pocket bottom. Alright, so our ribbon goes under our paper. So we wanted to get our paper cut so that we're ready to put that on. And 34, 35, somewhere around there. I might do a little extra. I'd rather it longer than shorter. I'll do like 36. Just to be sure. Got a ton of it, so. So there's our ribbon. Just set that aside for now. I could go ahead and glue it, doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna pick out this paper, see which one I like. Kind of leaning toward that one, but I do kind of like all that. And the orange is on the paper, the Stamperia paper. There is some oranges that are about that color. Let's see. Now you're not going to see much of it, like I said. It's mostly going to be hidden. I don't know if I want to see a big old bee or not. Could. The size for this is approximately like 5 by 9. But I don't usually go all the way to the edge because it just gives me something more to sew through. So I usually go kind of close. I'll probably end up hitting it anyway, honestly. But so you could go all the way to the edge, but I usually don't quite go all the way to the edge. And then I don't go all the way in here because you can't see all the way in there. So I usually just go to about 1 inch from the bottom. So approximately 5 by 9. What do you think? I should just do this little bee. Could do the little bee. I think I'm leaning toward this one. A little bit of the flower and then a little bit of the bees. The shades on these are slightly different front and back for this particular paper. If you compare, it's a reverse image. This one's not as different, but this one's a lot different. Look how light that is compared to this side. This one's actually not that different. I think I'll use this one. So we're going to put this one. I think I'm just going to go like here. I'll have a little bit of that flower, and then these 2 bees will be kind of hidden in there. I think I'll do that. So let's mark that at 5. I lost my ruler. It's under there somewhere. Nope. Where'd you set your ruler? Oh, there it is. It's so hard to see when it's on the table. So I'm just going to use a pencil, I think. See what shows on it. So I'll just mark this at 5, and I'll get my paper cutter. I'll cut this out. I don't really need 2 marks. Let's just go ahead and cut that edge. And I'm just going to do them out 2 different ones. That way they are kind of the same. I could do it out of the one and just have the bee on the top. I don't know that I want the big old bee there. All right, so let's cut that at 5. Where's my cutter? Good question. Buried. Didn't really need to mark it. I could have just used this. And then we'll say about 9. So we'll go like 8 3/4. And same thing on this one. Save that for something. Make a nice tag. And I still have these big old bees that maybe I'll put somewhere. I don't know what I'll do with them. So 5. And 8 3/4. Alrighty. We have our papers. here. I like to line up with this edge as close as I can get it. It doesn't need to go all the way to the bottom. There's really no reason. You really can't see in there. You can barely see in it at all. And then this will end up going here. If I want it the other way, I can flip it because this is reversible. That way I can have this honeycomb on the top side instead of this bee. I think I like the honeycomb better, but I do kind of like that edge. I might have that edge on the line. I'll just flip this and have this edge on the line. It's kind of cool looking anyway. All right, so we'll do that and glue those down after we get our ribbon on. So set this aside, move this over. We're going to put our ribbon down. Try not to forget your ribbon, or you'll have to figure out some other way to close it. Unless you want to take the whole thing apart, and I've done that, but it's no fun. Find your center of your ribbon. You should just fold it in half. And find the center approximately, and that goes into the middle. And you could tape it or whatever. Throw just a little tiny bit of tape on there just to hold it in place. And then we're going to glue this in. Some Fabri-Tac. So I'm using Fabri-Tac. It's by Beacon. It bonds fabric, lace, glass, leather, wood, and trims. Probably lots of other things. The Fabri-Tac versus the Fabri-Fix, just so you know, the tack works on wood. The fix does not work on wood. Okay, so if you're ever wondering what the difference is, that's basically it in a nutshell. Get the right one. So I'm just going to tack that in place. Turn it around this way. Take this tape off now. It's not quite on the line. You do have a decent amount of time to move on Fabri-Tac and probably Fabri-Fix. So if it doesn't quite get put where you want it to be, you can slide it a little bit for, I don't know, maybe 30-45 seconds or so. So I like to just fold it and make sure that they are actually lining up. And if they're not, then I adjust them, and that's not lining up. So I think we need to go up or down. Let's see. This side needs to go this way. A little bit off there. Let's see if that lines up now. And that's pretty close. Okay. So once you have it lined up, just make sure it stays where you want it to stay. And then we're going to go back to our pocket. Now remember, the pocket does not go here. So don't have this one sheet out and forget that. That's why we write on it. The pocket goes on here. Okay, arrows up, pocket here. It's pocket, pocket. Okay, we're going to do this little thing on the outside, so put that there. You could use art glitter or Fabri-Tac to glue this down. It's just paper to paper, so it's not a huge deal. I will probably switch to art glitter, mostly because I can sew through the art glitter a little easier than the Fabri-Tac. And make sure I'm the right way. Then I don't have to worry about it if I get, you know, too close to the edge or anything. Usually, I haven't found that this affects my sewing it down at all. And The most important edge is, of course, your outside edge. The rest, just, you know, get it mostly down. It'll stay in place in there pretty well. Okay. And then we're going to line this up to this edge. And I'm just going to center it approximately. I'm inside that edge maybe a 1/16 of an inch, if that. Okay. And then let's do this one. If you can work with it easier, just open it up and set it like that, just so you know which direction's which. That's why your arrow is helpful. So I want this to be on the outside, so I'm going to put this on this side. Okay. Try to get this lined up. Approximately a 1/16 or so in. All right, so now to think about how this goes. It goes like this. All right, so now we have front cover. So this will probably just be glued together. Inside, inside, and pocket. And then the back cover. All right, so there's that part, and we can glue our fabric. We want to leave the side open for the pocket. So we sew that down first, because once you put it together, you won't be able to sew here anymore because this has to stay open. So I go ahead and attach the fabric to just this side first. So that's the first step. So grab your fabric. And you can do the inside first or the outside. It really doesn't matter. And what you're going to do is get it all lined up. This doesn't really have a top or a bottom, so I don't have to worry about that. And I do have to just remember that this is the inside cover. And if you think you're going to forget, you can write on it or something with a chalk pencil. It'll erase. I'm just going to put, I can't see that one. I got a brown chalk pencil here somewhere. I'm just going to say, this is going to be covered with a pocket. I'm just writing inside, or inside cover. Right. So, my glue. And then this one goes like this. This goes with this. And this will be the front cover. I don't really need to mark it because I already have the other one marked. So what I want to do is leave the part with the pocket. That's the part that I want to attach to the fabric. Nothing else right now. So just get them ready to attach. You can glue them. It's easier if you glue them, I think. So I'm going to line them up and glue them. The gluing's fine as long as you don't try to sew it. So this is a little bit of room. I think I can just lay it on this side. Just kind of line it up first. It's not quite square. It's close. Almost square. I'm more concerned with this side usually than the other side, just because I do like my pocket to be even, if possible. Let's see if we can play with this a little bit. I don't usually iron this. I do wash it. I usually just hand wash it, honestly, and then roll it in a towel and hang it up. I don't put it through the dryer, honestly, just because when I put it through the dryer, I have to deal with those 5 billion strings that you get when you wash fabric, and it's just a pain, so I just don't. So let's try to squish that over. So what I want to do is go ahead and glue that edge down just a little bit. And I put the glue on this side. This is the pocket. Okay, yeah, I'm on the right one. I just had to think for a minute. Because it's easier to spread than it is on your fabric. And if you put it on this side and you spread it out, it doesn't tend to go through the fabric as badly. Going back to fabric tack, and we're just going to start this edge. I am not going to go all the way to the edge anywhere except, you know, I don't even really have to go all the way to the edge here. I'm just going to go about a ½ inch in, because I'm going to sew this, so I'm going to go just a little ways down so I can get it started and hopefully even. And I like to spread it out. It doesn't go through the fabric as badly. Let's see if we can get this lined up. So I'm just going to tack it and turn it over so I can line it up. Yeah, it's not lined up. Luckily, Fabri-Tac lets you move it. I think that's why I prefer to use Fabri-Tac, honestly, because I can just play with it. That's pretty close. And see if it's somewhat square still. This is the most warpy fabric. Honestly, half the fabrics I buy lately have been, they just don't want to be straight. They don't want to be square. I don't know why. As long as you can get them somewhat square. Alright, so we'll do that. And then I'm just going to flip it over and continue to glue this down. And I'll just check it as I go to make sure that everything's still in the right position. If you don't go too far with your glue, it doesn't dry out on you, and then it ends up not sticking. So just go a little at a time. And try to keep it somewhat straight here. Okay, I'm just going to check it as I go. I'm waiting for the air bubble. I haven't done one of these in a while. I was a little concerned. I was like, are you going to remember everything? You know how it is when you don't do something for a while, and then it's like, how did I do that? Make sure we're still staying somewhat straight. See, it's trying to get crooked on me. Let's see if I can pull it down just a little bit. The trick is getting it to not wrinkle. How's that? That's better. Okay. I feel like doing the Jeopardy theme. And I'm waiting for the Fabri-Tac air bubble. we don't have cable anymore, I don't watch those game shows I used to watch all the time, except for maybe Family Feud, because Family Feud, for whatever reason, comes over my feed for my live TV. But none of the others I used to watch. I used to watch all of them, you know, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Family Feud, all of the usuals. Don't really anymore. I think Steve Harvey is probably my favorite Family Feud guy. I grew up watching, God, I don't even know his name, the dude who kissed everybody. Oh, I can't remember his name. Oh my gosh. I'm very OCD. I would be like so freaked out if somebody just like wanted to kiss me on TV. Like, I guess back then, if they went on, they knew that was happening. Was it? I feel like it was Richard somebody. Trebek? Something? Alex Trebek? I don't know. I get all the names confused. I'm horrible with names. So bad. Alright, so got that one done. So we can set that aside for now. Just double check, make sure everything still looks like you're right. At this point, always double check because I don't want to find out later I did something wrong. Pocket's still in the right place. Fabric's there. Fabric's there. Ribbon is in the right place. You want your ribbon to be on the back of your pocket. If your ribbon is on this side, you did it wrong. Okay, it has to be on the back or it won't work. Same thing here. Ribbon has to be on the front. It's not as big of a deal on that side, but it's definitely a big deal on this side. Alright, so let's switch over to this one. I'm going to try to sew. I think I'll sew the pocket. I'm trying to remember how I did it last time. I'll probably sew it as I go. So I think I'm going to sew the pocket on here at this time. So because if you don't, you can't do it later. So I think I will do that. Hey, Bonnie. Alright, so make sure I'm in the right direction. The pocket's the right direction. Not that it matters with this fabric. And we're just going to line up this side first, because that's where the pocket is. Try to make sure that we get at least our frayed edge about the same as the other frayed edge. That's the goal. Too close. I'm a little closer than I usually do, but that's okay. You know what, I think I'm going to turn this over and do it because it'll be easier. So I want that fray. Actually, you know what? It's this fray. This fray is different than my other fray because the other one's a torn edge. So I'm going to use the same one. So it should be about there. Make sure it's somewhat square. Okay, I think that's close. Yeah, I tried tearing it first because I prefer to tear the fabric to get my edge because you get this better fray, but it was going way off, like it wasn't straight at all. Like when I started the tear, the piece was like this big, and when I ended it, it was like this big. I was like, okay. I don't know why, but it keeps happening. So I ended up cutting it with the rotary cutter because it just was not, and then I just frayed it with a pointy tool. But you don't get the same look if you can't tear it. I prefer being able to tear it. But. Unfortunately, it was not cooperating. Okay, let's see. All right, looks good. Continue gluing. And then we get to get the sewing machine out. My least favorite thing to do on lives is just, it's too bulky and it's pain. It's definitely one of my least favorite things to do. Make sure we're still centered. Looks good. So, I hurt my hand earlier. Well, it was kind of my fault, but in a way it kind of wasn't. I was at Michael's. I was getting the paper flowers and some other supplies. And I'm in line, I'm checking out. And of course, they don't have any registers open because, you know, nobody does that anymore. Customer service has gone out the window. So you've got the self-checkouts. And the person next to me has a whole bunch of the plastic bins that we keep our scrapbook papers in. And they've got a couple of different size bins, and she's got them stacked all willy-nilly. They were like little ones on the bottom and the big one on the top. And I'm like looking at it, and she's right next to me, like 2 feet away. And I'm like, that is gonna fall. And I'm like watching as I'm checking out my stuff. And sure enough, it starts to just collapse toward me. So my reaction, of course, is, you know, to take my hand and smack the top one to stop it from falling. Unfortunately, I have tendonitis in this hand. It's can't remember what it's called, but basically mother's thumb. But when I did it, it messed it up so bad. And I was like, it hurt it so bad, I could barely hold my bag to get out of the store. And I was like, I was kind of angry, but not really. I was more mad at myself because I didn't have to do that, but it was more of an instinct to stop it from falling. It wouldn't have really hurt anybody. It's plastic. But, and then I was in pain, and I was just like, it's a little better now, but it still hurts. I put some arnica gel on it, which sometimes helps, sometimes not. But I was just like, leave it to me to get injured trying to basically help somebody not have all this stuff fall on the ground. I probably don't have this fabric the right direction now. I was just thinking about that. I wrote on here. Where's the other one? I wrote on one of them, but I don't think it really matters now because I've turned the fabric like 3 times. I can't even see the writing, honestly. That chalk pencil rubs off pretty easy. So yeah, that was my fun experience. I was like, great, I'm not going to be able to squeeze the Fabri-Tac bottle because I hurt myself again. But what do they call them? Sugar bell? I don't know, something like that. Icing bottle, basically. Alright, so this is the top. This is can glue. Let me think about which way this goes. This goes this way. This goes this way. Yeah, I don't see that writing. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. It's okay. Luckily, I can kind of figure it out on my own. So that goes like that. That goes like that. So I want the pocket here. So we're going to go ahead and put the pocket down because I think it'll be better to sew this edge at the same time. Hopefully I'm not thinking wrong. Don't think I am. So you can find the center or you can just line up your edges. Doesn't really matter. And all I'm going to do is glue the middle and just a little bit on the edge, not a ton, just enough to hold it in place, and maybe a couple of drops down here. But I do want the center glued, so I am going to figure out about where the center is. And then I know an inch over this area I want glued because it's going to be where I have to sew through. And if I don't glue it down, like I said, it'll be difficult for the needle to get through all those loose layers. So I like to go ahead and just tack it down. And I'm just guesstimating. Somewhere about there, should be about right. We'll do that half. Now this might bleed through this because we're applying on the fabric kind of, but it's not too bad. I think it'll be alright. But sometimes your thinner fabrics will really bleed through this glue, and I hate that. But yeah, I thought about that because this is actually hurting a little bit after the squeeze. But unfortunately, there's really no way around that, because you have to squeeze the bottle. I guess they make those things that kind of squeeze for you, like trigger things. I've never tried one. I don't know if they're any good or not. All right, and then we're just going to put a little bit on the edge. It doesn't really need much. I'm just going to put a couple of drops here and there, just to kind of keep it, you know, lined up. Just a couple of little bits. I don't want too much, so I don't want to have to sew through it. You definitely don't want to sew through it wet. That would probably not be ideal. It would gum up your needle and all that. So I'm just going to do a little bit. A little bit here. Now we got. All right, and let's make sure everything looks like it's where it needs to be. I double check a lot. Just makes life easier if you know you're doing it right. Pocket's gonna go here. All right, I think we are good. All right, so now we want to sew this edge with this separated, of course, just this edge, so that we have that side sewed down. So I gotta get the sewing machine out on both sides. And if you think you're gonna forget which edge to sew, you can just go ahead and mark it. I shouldn't forget, but we'll mark it anyway. So just throw a couple of clips on there or something. So that's the edge we want to sew. I'll just do 3. Okay, and then this is the edge we want to sew. All right, which one did I do first? I did this one first. I'll do it first because it'll hopefully be dry. Okay. And the glue just rolls off this thing. So when you're done, it's an easy cleanup. You just roll it off and throw it away. So it's not a hard cleanup. Okay, sewing machine. So bear with me while I move this thing. Luckily, I did remember to change my thread out because I had black thread in there. I was like, oh, that's not going to look good with this journal, because I usually use black all the time on these journals. And I was just like, you know what? I don't think I want to use black this time. All right, let's see if I can figure this out. So, there. Try not to drop everything while I'm moving the cords. All right, bear with me. Walk around and plug it in. Okay. So I'm just going to put it about here. I know you can't see a lot, but without changing the whole camera around, I don't have an easy way to do it, so it is what it is. All right, so there's that. Let's see. Almost pulled the thread out of my needle. Okay. Turn it on. So I'm just going to use a straight stitch and just sew those edges. Nothing difficult. Let's see. I'm trying to see where I can see the chat and everything. Don't think I need to, but just in case. So I'm just going to sew this, and you can sew the good side on whichever side you want. The back is probably best, as long as you can remember, you know, how far in you need to go. Looks like I need, you know, I can use these clips. I'll put a clip there, clip there, clip there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark approximately where I need to sew. So I know, and this chalk pencil will pretty much disappear, but I know that I need to sew about here to be catching that cover. You can't see this. I can't see that. Back to the brown. All right. So we're just going to sew from here. I don't need a lot of marks, but enough to hopefully stay in the right spot. Because leave it to me to totally miss the whole thing. That's what I would do. All right, so about there. So I'm not going to leave these on. Make sure your ribbon is out of the way. You don't accidentally fold it over and sew it, you know, on there weird. Okay, let's see if I can do this at this angle. Don't push the button yet. Alright, so we're just going to sew that one edge. And you can back stitch to lock it in if you want. Usually do. Just a little. Hopefully this will cooperate. I did do a little test to make sure my tension was looking okay. Seemed to be okay. But sometimes going through all of these layers, it does start acting up on me. So we'll see. Hopefully it's behaving. Sewed. Looks okay on that side. Yeah. Like I said, when it's going through all the layers, sometimes it looks a little weird. Can't tell if it's too tight or too loose. It's not horrible though. We'll leave it. Okay? And that's why I did the good side on that side. But it does sometimes look funny coming through the cardstock. So that doesn't really surprise me. All right, same thing on the other one. Except this one, we got to worry about the pocket. So make sure your pocket's in the right spot and all that. So I'm going to start with this side so I can see how far in I need to be to catch that cardboard, the cardstock. Just want to be enough to where you can catch it. And I could put a second one a little closer to the edge, just to seal that edge down better, or I could just glue it. Either will work. So flip it over. Now my little clips are about where they need to be. Wrong one. So about here. don't know if I want to put a second one there or not. Sometimes it's a good idea to put a second one, only because a lot of times I do end up going around the outside twice if the first time doesn't get everything. But I don't know. Alright, so same thing. I'm going to be on the good, and then just make sure my pocket stays where it's supposed to be. It should, but you never know. I'm not going to sew this bottom of the pocket though, because then I would have 2 there and possibly 3, and I don't want that many. So I'm just going to leave that. Should be fine. Okay, so how does that look? About the same as the other one. I can tell that it almost looks like it's too loose. So hard to tell when it's coming through the cardboard. So now, let's see, I'm gonna move this out of the way, put this back together, get this cord. Let's see if I can move this over a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Kind of, sort of. Too many wires. Alright. Kind of. Alright, so this is, which way does this go? That's that. That's that. That's that. Alright, I think I'm going to glue this together just because it can be, and it will help hold it in place so it doesn't get off when I'm sewing it. So what I'm going to do is line up, if I can do it, I'm going to line up the packaging. So with my center line, touching that center line and that mark, I'm just going to clip that real quick. And then just make sure that it looks like it's gonna be even, at least mostly even. They're never perfectly even, but close. Let's double check our cardstock. Okay, that's about right. All right, so what I'm gonna do is where it says can glue, I'm just gonna go ahead and glue that down. It'll do 2 things. I'll lock this spine in. Yeah, that's pretty straight. Okay. And it'll keep it from shifting as much. Okay. Not going to go all the way to the edge though. So I don't have to go through that glue. I probably shouldn't have gone over that far. It doesn't have to be a ton of glue. Like I said, I'm mostly concerned with the middle. Just did that again on that side. Just love putting that glue down. Where am I? There. Okay, line that together. Make sure it's staying straight. The 2 pieces are together, it should be even. Should be. Not all to the edge of that. Just make sure that lines up. Okay, and then I'll do the other part of the spine. Shouldn't need those. So the other half of the spine there. This is why having those marks is handy. That spine's going to end. Don't get glue everywhere. Okay. Now my spine should be completely together in one piece. Okay, and then I get to sew everything except our pocket. This is where we don't sew the pocket. So we can go ahead and put little clips on. It should be lined up. I'll double check it by flipping it over in a second. But it should be lined up. Your ribbon stays where it's supposed to. I feel like the frame's off there just a little bit. Just a little. That's pretty close. It's just the, I'm sure it's the stretching of the fabric and all that. Sometimes it doesn't quite stretch out completely. It's close. If I feel like it bugs me when I'm done, I'll just trim it and fray it again. Missed that side there. And there. Let's see. Always check both sides because sometimes you will fold it over or something weird. Alright, so for the side where the pocket is, so that we don't forget and sew it up, what I like to do is make sure that's the pocket. And let me get this thread off. Then you can either put a whole bunch of clips so that you know that one that is clipped closed, you don't want to be messing with. Or you could just put a note. Sometimes I used to just stick a sticky there, so I remembered. But if you want, you can kind of get this out of the way so it's not accidentally going to flip over, since you're not going to be sewing there. But I do prefer to just kind of really mark it well so I don't forget, you know, and close it up. Honestly, I've only done it once, but it was a pain. It really was. All right, so now I prefer to have the nicer looking thread on this side, on the outside. So I'm gonna start, so potter here, and it'll be like this, and go around. No, that's backwards. Hold on, let me think. I don't want to sew there. I want to sew on this side. Right, so I want to start here. All right, so I want to start here, go all the way around, and then don't sew here. This is a no-no. No, no, no. Don't sew there at all. Okay? So I'm going to start here. I am going to mark it the same way I did the other thing, just to make sure that I am catching this cardstock. You can feel where it is. You do want it's not cardstock, it's the packaging. I always call it cardboard or something. but you want to kind of see where it is. So feel it and then decide, you know, how far in you want to go. I'm going to go like a fourth of an inch of that. So I'm just going to kind of put these little tabs about a fourth of an inch in, and then I'll just mark it so that I know where to sew, because you can't really see it to know. I'm trying to find my brown marker. There it is. But you can feel it. It's easier, honestly, it's just easier to mark it rather than trying to keep an eye on it the whole time. If it's marked, all you gotta do is follow the line. Just, if you move the clips, just make sure you didn't fold anything over, because you know that would be me. So there's that line about there. So it's about a half an inch in, because you've got like a quarter of an inch for that fray, and then, you know, you want to catch the packaging by about a quarter of an inch. So if you go in about half an inch, seems to be about right. And you can mark it, don't mark it. It's not hard to erase. I think I prefer to mark it. Gives me a line to follow, because I am not the best sewer, and I will be crooked and go in all kinds of different directions. So by putting the line, it gives me something to follow. And this chalk pencil matches this fabric pretty well, so even if I missed a little spot of it, you probably would never even know. And remember, this is still not glued like real solid, so you do have to kind of watch that it doesn't start bunching on you. Sometimes that can happen. All right, let me write it to the edge there. All right, so I'm going to start here and move everything back where it needs to be. And almost done with the sewing. My least favorite part. I don't hate sewing. I don't like getting the machine out. I need a little teeny machine. It's not bulky. Alright, so should I loosen that tension up a little? I think it was too tight. It's hard to test, so I don't know. I might leave it. Loosen it. Just the tiniest fraction. I can't tell if it was too tight or too loose, honestly. I'm not good at sewing. It's not really my thing. Alright, so where do I want to be? I want it to be here. Alright, so I got to take off the clips for this edge so I can get to it. And we're just going to start there. Hopefully nothing is folded under. Tried to be careful. And see what this does. I might try to take a peek at it and see before I go too far. It's hard to do though. I don't know. I can't really peek until I get in pretty far. Let's see if I can tell. It's not too bad. We'll leave it there. Okay. Just remove your clips as you go. board in my way every time. If you get any bunching, just try to, you know, hold it flat. It is loosely glued on here, so sometimes it does want to bunch. At least with me sewing. Maybe it's me, I don't know. I'm not the best sewer. Needle down so I can turn. Lift your foot, turn your item around. Make sure your ribbon is not going crooked. Usually as I get close, I try to make sure my needle's down. And bunching. This is where we stop. Take a little double stitch. Okay. So, take this off now. Make sure everything looks okay on the other side. It looks much better than it did before. I think loosening it up just a little bit, it wasn't even much. Definitely helped. Okay, so we've got our sewing. Too zoomed or something. All right. Can you see the sewing? So all the way around, sewn. Okay, and then later if I decide that, you know, I think one looks a little neater, but if you want the messy look, you can do two, or you can just come in and glue it down to the packaging so you don't see that spot, or you could do two lines. Either is fine. I'm not going to do two lines. I usually just glue it, honestly. All right, so let's see how we look. See if I can get this sewing machine out of my way a little bit. I don't think that cord reaches. It might reach. Between my mic and the cords, 500 things. Okay, did it. Alrighty. So now we have our cover. So it looks like this. Okay, got pockets. When I do these pockets, if I have a choice on my fabric, I try to grab a salvaged edge on this pocket so that that edge is sealed and I don't have to worry about it fraying or anything. So that happens to be the salvaged edge on that particular fabric. and trim up your threads or not. Some people like them messy. I don't know, I guess I'm a little bit too OCD for super messy. I usually clean them up. Now, I may or may not trim this edge, so my edge over here is right at that cardstock. Could have come a little bit further that way, I think, but I didn't, so I will probably glue that down so it's not so obvious. And that's where my pocket is. So there's our pocket. Okay, see, you can see in there a little bit. You can see the little bee. But so we got our pocket here. We have two pockets here. And this side's just a little bit wider because it was a little wonky. So I may or may not trim that. I probably won't. I'll probably just leave it. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. Although it does show a little more on the front. I might trim it just a little bit. I think I'll trim this back one just a little bit. And what I do for something like that, because the fray is not going to be quite right, I just, trim it wherever it needs trimmed. Usually use the rotary because I get a better cut. And then I just take something sharp and fray out the edges so that they look somewhat similar. And if they really look way too neat, then I'll take a little bit of sandpaper to them, and that usually I'll fluff them up a little bit. But for right now, I think I'm going to just leave that, and let's think about these flowers. So the spine will be 2 inches, about like that. Okay, that leaves me 6 inches to play with papers, which are usually 5.5. So they don't come all the way to the edge here, and I like it that way. That way, if I want to put lace trim or anything like that, I don't have to worry about it sticking out too far. So I was thinking about these flowers on this cover. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I could do some lace. I could do these flowers, and I may not decide today. I'm not sure. This was just what I happened to find at Michael's. So it was $8.99, but I had a 30% off coupon, and I had a $5 rewards, so not super crazy. Paper flowers can be pretty expensive, but I like the paper flowers. And most of these were relatively flat, so they're not super crazy. So I could totally just cover the whole thing. I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I'm just debating on what I want to do, how I want to do it. If I want to do, let's just set them off to the side because there's different ones. It's like about 5 different ones. That one's only got one little thing in it. So a couple different colors, sizes. These are tiny. This looks like this kind of, but different size. I guess it's this one. That's technically a white one. That's there. Guess there. And a couple little, just like 2 roses in here. The rest are, I don't know, daisies or something. They kind of look like daisies. Very loosely. They loosely look like daisies. Alright, so this is brown. Is there only one of those? Oh, guess so. Alright. Kind of sort of there and there. I don't know, something like that. So I could, I'm not sure if I want to use the roses. If I do, I would want them probably on the edge since they are. Now, I don't think tying will have a problem, so there's nothing to worry about there. I could just go around the edge, maybe alternating. I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't really thought this through. Spiny one. Maybe these. Just two whites together. It's because the rose is there. And the brown. Maybe. I don't know what I want. If I do it around the edge, I don't know what I would put in the middle. I don't have another brown there. Oh, there's one. Looks too big over there. Put the bigger ones there. Then I have two browns right next to each other. Kind of, sort of. Maybe this one. Maybe that one. I don't know. I'm overthinking this, I'm sure. Put that in the middle. What do you think? Should I do flower back or something? I feel like this is maybe too many. You think it's too many? I think it might be too many. I'm just playing to see if I can make it look right. Maybe 3 here. One big one and 2 small ones. Not a white one. Maybe this one. I don't know. I could just do like a bunch. I don't know if I need leaves or something. Maybe I need some leaves. No. That doesn't look good. So I could do around the edge, or just do one edge, either the inside or the outside, one or the other. If I just did one edge, just do something like that. I could keep it. Do I have another one of these? No. That one's really dark, but I'll keep it. I think I'll keep the dark one. Something like that with one edge. What do y'all think? Any thoughts on this? I'm not going to glue them on today. I think I'm going to wait and make sure that this is the best option. Like I said, I went out trying to find something, but didn't have a lot of luck. I kind of like the roses on these sides there. I'm not sure if I want anything here. Maybe it's too much. Any way I look at it, I'm going to have a brown one there. I need like a word or something. That's what I feel like I need. Maybe a word or something. Maybe a larger flower. What y'all think? Any thoughts? Y'all let me know. I'm honestly not sure. I mean, I could just cover the whole front with flowers. I could just totally just throw them all on here. Cover the whole thing. I don't know. I don't know if it's overkill. Do like 3 rows. I feel like that one needs to be brown. This one needs to be maybe this one. This one needs to be a darker one. Switch these. Nope, that puts 2 together. What do you think? A couple of flowers in the top left and right bottom corners. Left and right. Top, left, and right. So here or here? I don't know if the roses are so thick. I don't know what you're saying, Bonnie. So we'll do 3 different sizes. Let's do 3 different sizes. So maybe tiny one. And I feel like it needs leaves. And then I like this one maybe. And then a medium size. And then a smaller one. 3 maybe. Left corner. So up here. Like that. This seems awfully sparse. Sparse. Or just a few. It doesn't seem like a lot. I think I'm overlapping a little bit. I mean, I could just do a few. I feel like it needs something. I'll keep looking, and I have, I don't have to do it right now. It can be at any point during the making of the journal. Maybe I'll have come across something and I'm just like, that's perfect, I don't know. Ooh, excuse my yawning. Goodness gracious. But for right now, that's where I'm at. So either we'll put a few, we'll put them everywhere, or I don't know. I don't think I want the rose. The rose isn't bad. So maybe. Right now, that's where I'm at. I'm going to leave it blank for now until I decide for sure, because I'll see if anybody else chimes in with some ideas. They had some bigger flowers, but I thought that was kind of overkill. And anything I don't use on the front, they are thin enough to get away with using them inside, I think. Particularly these with the little bitty pieces. They're pretty thin. If I don't use them on the outside. All right. Keep yawning. So that's where we're at. And, maybe I'll put some on the inside here. Could always do that. I hadn't thought about that too. To put a few either on the top or the bottom. Probably the bottom. like maybe 1 or 2 on the bottom or something. Not necessarily those 3, but you get the idea. I don't think they're super crazy thick, so it's a possibility too. Put a few on the outside and a few on the inside cover. So something like that. Alright guys, I'm going to call it a day. We've got our cover made, basically. And then a lot of times what I like to do to kind of train these covers, and I don't usually show you all this. See if I can find it. I probably stole it to wrap fabric around. I like a piece of foam floating around here somewhere. I think I stole it to wrap fabric around. Anyway, a lot of times when my journals are new, the covers, this part wants to have this point, which I'm not crazy about. So I'm not going to take my fabric off, but I'll throw a piece of pole noodle in there and just kind of do like this for a few days and let it kind of soften up just a little bit. And usually it helps some. So I'll do that. That pole noodle was a little big. I have some smaller ones floating around here somewhere. All right. So there it is. Hopefully y'all enjoyed watching that. And I will be back on Wednesday. Right? Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything coming up on my schedule. I don't have a new calendar. I forgot to get one at Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to have to go spend a lot of money for a calendar. But I don't think so. I know I have things coming up. I don't know what it is. So Wednesday should be fine. So I'll see you guys Wednesday. And we'll continue on the pages. That will be next. We'll be picking out pages, whether it's coffee dyed, whether it's envelopes or the scrapbook papers, whatever it is. And we'll put that together for the pages. All right, guys. I think I'm going to dye some avocado paper. I have a little bit left, but I think the avocado dyed paper will match this Stamperia paper pretty well. It's kind of a pinkish orangey tone. Pinkish orangey, kind of. So I think that will work. So I'm probably going to do that. I'm trying to see what colors are in here. I feel like it has kind of an avocado dye look in some of these. It might be too pink. I don't know. It sometimes turns out about this orangey shade. So I'll look at it. I've got some made already. I just need to dye the paper. So I will probably do that and just see if I can add some of those to it or not. All right, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. And thanks for watching.